Okay guys, we're back. I've decided instead of trying to put the lights onto the piece of acrylic polystyrene plastic first, what I'm going to do beforehand is I'm going to take the two pieces of the foam for the axe head. I'm going to go ahead and put those together with the contact cement. Then I'll be able to make sure this is going to fit, and if I need to do any trimming I can do it before I put the lights on it. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, so the reason I drew this rough outline of the plastic acrylic polystyrene is I'm about to attach this with contact cement, and what you have to do with contact cement, first you got to shake it up real good, then you apply it to your two pieces of material you want to attach. And pretty much I put this here so I can know where my plastic acrylic is going to be, and I know I don't want to get any contact cement on that. So all this stuff on the outside edge is where I'll be free to put contact cement on either side without it interfering with my internal plastic piece. And what I didn't find out until later on, after trying to make a lot of different cosplays and stuff, is when you're using contact cement, sometimes people call it barge. What you got to do is you have to apply a coating of it to both pieces that you're wanting to connect together permanently. Then you have to let it sit for 5 minutes for it to start curing. Then once it sits, it gets sticky and tacky. You attach the two pieces together and you get a permanent bond. It's kind of a little tricky. You have to kind of fiddle with it. Some different products have different set times, and so you kind of have to just see for yourself. But if you don't let it sit long enough, it won't hold. If you let it sit too long, it also won't hold. There's a sweet spot in the middle, and it's different for each thing, so you have to kind of figure it out on your own. So we're going to put that together right now. So what I've done so far before I've started barging these together is I've put the two pieces that I'm going to connect together, I stacked them on top of each other. I've used the push pins to hold them in place. I'm not on the camera. Use the push pins to hold them in place. They're fairly close, like in dimensions lined up and everything, but not perfect. So what I'm going to have to do is afterwards I'll have to go through and sand them back down to get them flush. But this is good enough for this step. So what I'm going to have to do now is I want to make a little reference mark so I can line them up easy. So what I'll do is I'll go across the top and I'll just draw a line across here, showing that now that line, when I put them back together, I just need to match that line up. I can go over here and do the same thing on this side. Then I'll know I'll match those things up. Now if I go around this whole piece and do this a few times, this will ensure that I'm lined up to the best I can be right now. And that way when I'm done, after I permanently fix these together, I won't look at it later and realize that I've got it crooked and it's not lined up properly. Because it is a little tricky to put these together, and once you stick them together, they are not coming back apart. So you really only get one shot at it. So just go around, make a few of these, however many you want. And all it is just drawing a line from one side to the other so you have a reference. And then next step is we'll apply the barge.
My dad is going to glue the sharp part of the axe, that way in the back he can slide the plastic into it and then put the lights on the plastic.
I'm only going to do the one side right now. If I do too much of it with the shape of this axe, you wouldn't be able to get this piece back in if you glued any of the back corners here. So I'm going to just do the front edge, and that way we can come back in, put this in after we're done doing the lights on it. Then once that is all complete, we can come back and put the contact cement or barge on and finish sealing it up the rest of the way. Okay, here we go. This stuff is fairly messy, so be careful with it. And and it's really hard to clean up.
Trust me.
With this stuff.
And it smells super strong.
It is very strong. If you're in like a poorly ventilated room, you might want to wear a respirator or open up a window or something because it is pretty stout. And I just got it on my hand. So that's about what it looks like. I don't know if you can actually tell a difference in it or not, but it's supposed to get tacky. So what I'm going to try to do now is I'm going to try to put them together with lining up these holes, which can be troublesome.
Oh, it's going bad.
It very well might. Well, and of course I'm a little bit off.
I knew it.
But a little bit off, but I think it's still enough that it's not going to hurt anything. See, well, oof, not very good. Not wrong direction. Not very good. We'll also have to clean it up with some sandpaper and stuff later. But then, technically, you're supposed to let this completely cure for a few hours. I'm going to set it off to the side for just a few minutes while I was drying. We started mocking up the next piece, the back piece of the axe. We're going to do the same thing to that, and then while that one's curing and stuff, I'm going to let this dry a little bit more, and then maybe we can have enough, it'll be set up enough that we can work with it a little bit.
Yeah. Since my dad got the pieces a little uneven, the piece of plastic don't exactly fit in there the exact way, but it still fits in there. Thankfully. Thankfully. Surprised. Are you?
It's going to be enough, so.
Yeah.
Now what that's going to enable us to do is whenever we put the LED lights on the plastic strip here, we'll be able to attach it to this in the pattern we think will give us the best light coverage through this diffuser. And once that's done, we can just slip it back in here and sandwich it back in, and then we can permanently close it up after all of our wires and everything are connected. And then what we'll do the same thing to the other side, which you can see here. I went ahead and I've already started mocking up the back piece of the axe. We're going to let that sit for another 12, 13 more minutes. Put those back together the same way. And then the next step will probably be putting the lights onto the plastic acrylic polystyrene. Okay, so I'm going to try to line this one up better.
Yeah, he forgot to put marks on it.
Yes, I forgot to put marks on it, so now I'm having to eyeball it. So I'm here to make these mistakes so anybody else that watches these videos later, they don't make the same mistakes I did. I'm going to power this off this 9-volt battery, and you can stick just these leads to these here, and you'll see it lights up. So it's super bright. We got a whole bunch of lights in here, so it's kind of hard to tell, but it's really bright. And this is all running off of just a regular 9-volt battery.
I did not know to do that.
You could try to solder those together or something. Might make it a little, I don't know, it'd be too hard. So I ended up I found these on Amazon. You just clip these on to your 9-volt battery, and it gives you extra little pieces of wire that I can solder together, or I can wire, just twist them together, wire nuts, whatever I don't want to do. I haven't decided just yet, but then when you stick those together,
We don't use tape.
not sure what we're going to do yet. And you still get the same effect. It still lights up, so.
I think that's so cool.
And I think this is a spool. I think this is like 16 feet. I got it for probably around $20, but maybe less than $20 on Amazon. I'll try to put all the links in the description below if I don't forget, so. Okay, so I abandoned my first idea because it was taking way too long. I was going through, cutting out the little notches in it, and I was going to weave it through back and forth on the inside of the axe, but I ended up breaking that one. Then I went through and I cut it through into this one, and of course I broke that one too and tried to glue it. This side turned out alright, but I was going to have to make multiple more, and then for some reason my super glue is the slowest drying super glue ever. This piece has been sitting here about 15 minutes and it's still not dry. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'll probably have to get a different type of super glue. So what I ended up doing was I pulled off as much light strip as I thought I was going to need, and I loosely wrapped around it to kind of get an idea of how much it was going to take. Then I cut it off. Now when you cut these off, I'll try to get up here so you can see all these light strips. You can't just cut them off anywhere. You have to cut them off on these little double copper lines right here. Can't if you can see them. Right there. Those double copper lines. There we go. You cut those. If you cut it before or after, it's going to mess up and it's not going to light up all your LED lights. So I found it where I need to cut it off there. Then I decided to start at the bottom, wrap it around, zigzag back and forth. Had a little extra slack, so I just looped it back around. Now I have this little pigtail hanging off here. Hold that up, straighten it up, bub, so they can see on the camera. Alright, so not the greatest. I wish I could get it look a little bit better, but once you put the outer skin of foam on it, I think it'll look alright. This is what the edge was looking like before, right? So we decided to go ahead and cut the bevel on us. We did this at an angle, and then it's kind of hard to see here because it's just white, but you can see it actually gives it more depth and 3-dimension, and once we do all our painting and everything, it's going to actually look like it's been sharpened down to be a point of an axe. And we'll do that on both sides. Okay, after we put the bevels in on these, they're still not the greatest. We'll have to come back in. We'll have to come back in and sand them up after we're done. Actually, it probably won't be too bad because we're going to put another thin layer of 2mm foam across these. A piece of foam that's about this thickness, so it'll be this outer skin on this, so that actually might be able to hide a lot of these blemishes. So we'll try that.
Okay, so I figured out if you put this one onto the battery and you stick these two together, it starts to fire and starts smoking, so don't do that. And gonna move on to this. My dad put the plastic with the watch wrapped around it inside of the axe. We tested it, it still works.
Okay, so as Gabriel said, we got the lights onto the piece of polystyrene plastic. We got inside of the inside of the foam here. Now all we need to do is take the barge of the contact cement, go around the outer edge, and then seal it back together so it holds itself inside. We're going to set that aside for now, and we're going to go move on to something else. Okay, now while the axe heads, the contact cement on the axe head is drying, we're going to try to rough out the shape of our handle here. So I've cut off the handle portion of our photo template, got it laid out here, and now I'm going to kind of just rough it in. Next step will be to start wrapping foam around it and start building it up so it actually looks like an axe handle. Okay, enough time's passed that this contact cement should be ready to put together. That's what we got so far.
That looks amazing.
So I let it slip my mind that I forgot to glue together the back piece, so we're going to do that real quick right now. So we've got that put in there now. We're going to let that set for 15 minutes, put it together, and then we'll try to attach both pieces together. Alright, so while that barge is drying, we'll start cutting out our handle. Earlier we already cut out the piece to the shape that we were wanting to use on this, which is here, and we cut it off a little longer than we need just in case for some reason we need to make modifications. Once you cut it, you can't make it longer, but you can always cut it back down. So I like to leave a little longer just in case. Now what we're going to do, this handle is actually really thin in the middle here. So we can't add much material to it or it's going to be bigger than it should and it's going to look odd. So what we're going to do, we hand me that roll of foam over there, Gabriel, that 2mm, that black stuff. Old and really dusty, but it's very thin. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap this around it like skin and glue it to the pipe itself. We have to rough it up. Right now it's too slick. If you try to, it will stick to it, but it will slowly come apart. Over time it'll lose its grip and it'll just fall off. So in order to keep it from doing that, you gotta get your piece of sandpaper or a knockdown drywall screen like I've got here, and just essentially just rough up the PVC pipe. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes. This should be ready to put together. I'm going to pop out this little piece of foam that I stuffed in there to keep it apart. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put contact cement all over the piece of PVC, but then also you're going to have it in such a way that it can set for 15 minutes to cure without touching anything. So essentially it needs to float. You can do this by, I was thinking of trying to get coat hangers, metal coat hangers, take them apart, stick it on either end and hang it on from something, which could work. If you're going to do that, make sure you lay something underneath it so none of the contact cement drips off into the floor. I can't particularly do that method here. What I can do though is we have a pegboard in the back, and it has some long pegs to hang bigger things on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint all this with contact cement, take this back, slide it down onto the pegboard, let it sit there and dry. I've got pieces of cardboard, scrap cardboard laying all around it, so that if it does drip, it'll only get on the cardboard and not the floor. So we'll give this a try real quick. Seams aren't the greatest, but I think that will serve its purpose. I think we're probably going to wrap it up for the night. It's getting late, and we'll pick back up tomorrow.